Hello and welcome to SFGovTV's Meet Your District Supervisor series. I'm your host, Franco Finn. First and foremost, let me introduce myself. My name is Franco, and I am a native San Franciscan, born and raised in this great city here in San Francisco. I am an appointed film commissioner here in the city. Also, I'm very passionate about our community. I'm a professional auctioneer, philanthropist, fundraiser, very active in our city. And many may know me as a longtime voice for our local Bay Area sports team, the Golden State Warriors, being the hype man for so long. And that's what I love about this series. This is getting to know our district supervisors and maybe have a little fun while we're at it, okay? Well, thank you. Today's special guest is District 3 Supervisor. This is Danny Sauter. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Happy to be here, Franco. Thanks for coming into City Hall. It's a pretty nice building, isn't it?
Oh, this is amazing. I tell you, every time I look at this is just like, it reminds me of how classic of a place it is, the history, right?
It's special.
Yes, and we want to get to know the history behind you as well.
Sure.
Before we get into that, let's talk about your districts that you supervise.
Yes.
I mean, this is quite the iconic neighborhoods, okay? The northeastern neighborhoods, including the Barbary Coast. We have Northern Waterfront, Chinatown, Lower Nob Hill, the Financial District, Fisherman's Wharf, Jackson Square, Nob Hill, North Beach, Polk Gulch, Russian Hill, Telegraph Hill, and Union Square. Did I get everything there?
I think that's most of it. It's a pretty special set of neighborhoods. And
It definitely is.
Feel honored to represent these neighborhoods. I mean, these are, I think, really the face of San Francisco. When people come to San Francisco, when people think of San Francisco, it's all about our District 3 neighborhoods.
They really are. And it's, no matter where you are around the world, it's like, I got to go to Union Square. I got to go to Fisherman. I mean, you are... Those are the most iconic. I think some of the most iconic. But let's take it a step back. Let's talk about the history of you. Where were you born and raised, and how did you end up here in San Francisco?
You know, I was born far away from here in the Midwest, Columbus, Ohio, and have always had family in the Bay Area, though. So when I was young, I was able to come out here and see the beauty of California, kind of feel the allure of San Francisco. So when I got a chance to move here right out of college, I was so happy. And almost 15 years now, and most of that time, 14 of those 15 years in District 3 in North Beach, live there with my wife and our new 8-week daughter now, and just love San Francisco and feel so honored to play a role in shaping this city.
Yeah, you've been involved. This is not like your first hand at this. I mean, you've been involved as a community, and that's what many people may not know that about you. We'll get into that a little bit, but let's talk about Ohio real quick. I'm just saying a little connection. I'm in sports. You know, Ohio, you got the, the 49ers. There's an Ohio connection there. Youngstown, Ohio, though, however. But the Yorks and all that stuff, and the 49ers. So there's this Ohio connection. Anyways, are you a sports guy?
I am. I'm a basketball, I'm an appreciator of basketball, but really a diehard baseball fan.
Okay.
And originally growing up a Cincinnati Reds fan.
Okay.
And then now a San Francisco Giants fan. And I think actually this weekend, I'm going to try and go to my first Oakland Ballers game. So
yeah. You're a baseball guy. I love that. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Good to know about you. We'll talk about your, like in your neighborhood.
Yes.
I mean, in your particular neighborhood, like if you had a day off, with your newborn in the stroke, where would you go? What are some of the highlights? What were some of the cool spots that you would say?
That's a hard question because we are flush with great places. I mean, I just love walking around the neighborhood. I live in North Beach, and I love, just going down to Washington Square Park and kind of taking a stroll around the paths there and seeing who's sitting on the benches and seeing what's going on. I mean, go grab a slice at Golden Boy, of course.
Yes.
If you want to sit down for a longer lunch, go to Mario's, get a focaccia sandwich. Go over to Trieste. There's a new coffee shop called Compton's that's doing really well and is delicious.
There's so many options.
There's so many.
Every day of the week?
Every day. And if I'm maybe more ambitious, I'll go up the hill to Russian Hill, go over to Russian Hill Bookstore. And there's plenty to do. SFGomas is celebrating its 60th anniversary soon. And that's always a good time for dinner down in the wharf. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm going to throw in this film question.
Yes.
Because I'm on the film commission.
Yeah.
If you could pick one iconic spot in your district, there's too many.
There's too many.
What's one that you filmed in front of? Iconic.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm thinking about, I just saw Man on the Inside, the Netflix, the new one, and a lot of that takes place up on Nob Hill, right in front of Grace Cathedral in Huntington Park. So I think that's a good pick. Yeah. Somewhere up on Nob Hill. Yeah.
That's a new one, too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, very, very cool. All right, you passed that test. Well, let's talk about your district and you represent. Politics. Why politics? I mean, you were involved in the North Beach Farmers Market, which is amazing for many years. But why
Yeah.
decide to take on a seat here?
For me, I think it hasn't been about politics. It's kind of been this organic journey to get to politics and, what politics can achieve. So for me, after living in the neighborhood for a couple of years, I started to feel a calling to get more involved, right? I realized I was going to be there long term. And there were some things that I loved, but also some things that I was frustrated by, right? There were certain storefronts that had been empty for years. There were certain intersections that I felt were too dangerous. There were certain bus lines where I'm like, why isn't this bus moving faster? Why isn't our public transportation better? So, after seeing that, I kind of raised my hand to get involved. I joined my neighborhood association.
Yeah.
And one of the first things that I was tapped with there was this idea of bringing a farmer's market to our neighborhood. And that was just such an exciting project to be involved with. It was also at times really frustrating, different roadblocks that were put in front of us that I thought it was just too complex, too complicated. The city should be doing more to make it easier to do something so positive like that. We eventually got that farmer's market open. It's been open for 8 years now. It's been such a labor of love. And that kind of put me on a path of getting more and more involved. Became the president of that neighborhood association, became active in our Democratic clubs, and then ran for office. And so it's kind of brought me to this point now.
That's how you got here. Well, talk about your district and the demographic. I mean, it's very diverse.
Yeah.
But what would you say, are the main contingents and, just looking at it from a bigger perspective? And then also, how do you ensure that underrepresented, communities are heard in your district, in your neighborhoods?
We've got a really special district. I mean, we have the highest number of older adults of any district in San Francisco, a large senior population in our district. So there's a really incredible web of organizations that take care of them, groups like Next Village, groups like Tell High Neighborhood Center.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We also have about 40% of our residents API. And something that's really important to me is language access, right? So we're working on legislation to make it easier to hire more officers, public responders, first responders who speak Cantonese, who speak Toisanese, Mandarin, to serve our monolingual Cantonese-speaking population in District 3.
And I heard, you have language skills. You could speak some Chinese?
I'm taking Cantonese. I've taken a couple classes at City College, and that's really showed me what a great asset City College is for San Francisco. I've become involved in the Save Cantonese movement, continue those classes online with a private tutor. So a couple years of learning Cantonese, and every once in a while, I can have a decent conversation, but I've got a long way to go. So I got to keep.
But you're making the effort. That's great, and because you have a lot of residents too that you
Absolutely,
help
it's really important.
Absolutely, that's great. Well, let's look at San Francisco as a whole. What do you think are some of the most pressing challenges that San Francisco faces today? You're new to this seat, right? To this supervisor, with this board, if you will. And how do you navigate through this? What do you hope to do? Like, what do you see in just the bigger picture, and what can you do to make an impact?
I think so much of it right now is giving people pride in San Francisco again. It's making sure that people come to San Francisco and invest if they're business owners, that we have that talent of new residents if they're thinking about moving here. And the last couple of years, frankly, have been challenging, right? We've had some really difficult, dark moments. So I think it's really important that all of us work together and there's a collaborative spirit, that we are lifting up San Francisco. And I think we're starting to make some good strides on that. I'm hearing more confidence from every angle, more people feeling good about betting on San Francisco again. That's what it's all about.
It is, right. And betting on San Francisco again. We will rise, and we will go. We're a very resilient city. Talk about your approach as a leader. What is your type of approach with leadership, and how do you hope to infuse that in your day-to-day work, and what's your style, if you will, so that some people don't know,
I try to bring people together. I try to get consensus, and that's difficult sometimes in politics. But I think, in politics, sometimes there's a really loud, large personalities. I try not to be that way, right? I try to be a little bit more balanced. People say I'm one of the most patient people they know, and I think that's something that we need more of in politics and more of in San Francisco. That's the tone I try to take. I try to use my last 15 years in District 3 and understand, what are the things that are really important to people in their everyday lives. I think sometimes this beautiful building can be a little bit of a vortex. It can be a little bit of a bubble. And you can get caught up in the minutia of this particular word or this particular piece of legislation on line 12. But you gotta back up and say, okay, does this improve people's everyday lives? The things I hear about when I'm in the neighborhood, people want to see the storefronts filled up with new businesses. They want to see more trash cans on the street. They want the bus to move faster. They want the parks to be clean and safe. Those sorts of things we got to work on.
How do you address when people say, like, obviously you're taking over a seat that has been taken for a very long time with Aaron Pessigan, and he had his ways of doing things in his district, and now you're bringing in your new leadership and your style. What do you have to say to folks in terms of this transition? They say, oh, we used to do it this way, but now, I'm sure you're getting a lot of that, right? Because if someone's been there a long time, and now here you are, the new face. How do you deal with that?
I think there's certainly things that you got to carry on, things that are working, but there's also some things that you just got to take another look at. I was talking with a constituent last night on Russian Hill, and we were talking about how Russian Hill doesn't really have any street sweeping. And if you look at the map, most of District 3 does not have street sweeping. And sometimes when you talk to people in power about that, they say, oh, well, we tried in the 80s and people didn't want it in the 80s. And that's a moment where you have to be like, well, it's not the 1980s anymore. Like, let's take another look at this. And I think that's what having a fresh set of eyes in this seat allows us to do is continuing what's working well, but also say, hey, after years and years of doing it a certain way, maybe we need to take a change.
Yeah. And well, thank you for sharing that. How do you ensure policies are inclusive and effective for San Francisco's diverse population?
I think it's all about listening to people. It's all about making yourself accessible. Last night we had a town hall on Russian Hill. Tonight we've got a town hall along the Barbary Coast. This past weekend, I was doing coffee office hours, which we do once a month. We rotate every single neighborhood, and we hang out at a different coffee shop and kind of have quick conversations with everyone just to hear what's on their mind. We try to be really accessible like that. That's important.
Okay. Yeah. Talk about your staff, for instance.
Yeah.
You had to form a staff.
Yeah.
When you got elected, it was like, okay, here's my staff. Any kudos you want to shout out? Like any shout outs? This is the time to maybe introduce your staff to the folks that may not know who your staff. How did you come up with your staff in this trip?
I feel incredibly blessed. I have an incredible staff. We have 4 people in our office, and 2 of them were with me all the way during the campaign trail. So they've got a lot of community experience, a lot of District 3 experience. They've been with me, from the beginning. So Amy Lee, who grew up in North Beach, Chinatown, speaks Cantonese, runs her own nonprofit. Like, she's doing everything. She is a rock star. Tomio Nagano, who was our field director on the campaign, he is a really empathetic person. He's learning quickly. He's incredible. Tita Bell is my chief of staff. She has experience inside this building, which has been so invaluable. Yeah. And then Michelle Andrews, we throw any problem at her with land use, with transportation, with housing. She's figuring it out. So I feel very blessed to have a great team.
Yeah, you need to have a good team to run. Right? I mean, it's everything. And so shout out to your team, especially in this first year. Talk about your first year so far. What has been the challenges? What have been your highlights? What can you share with us about this first half of the year, if you will?
I've had a great time in these first 4 months. I'm really enjoying this job. I feel a lot of responsibility. The only thing that frustrates me is that there's not more time and we can't do things more quickly and get everything done right at once, right? Because you're in this position where you're taking in all these suggestions and feedback, and you have all your own ideas too, and you just gotta find a way to put that together and make it happen, and that's kind of the crux of it. But I'm really loving it. I'm really enjoying it. I feel blessed to be in this position.
Well, your toughest job is probably being a father, right? Because you have a newborn.
It's true.
It's true, right?
Yeah. It's been such a blessing. We have a new daughter. She's 8 weeks old now, and we're just starting. And I might jinx it here, but we're just starting to get a little bit of better sleep. It's been so fun to start to show her things in the neighborhood, and it just makes you feel that much more proud of our city, and to be able to raise her in a city like this, it's pretty special.
I was gonna say, has that changed your perspective now that you're a dad and you're growing up? She's being raised in San Francisco. And how does that change your views? How does it motivate your job? And how do you also stay informed as a leader too?
It is exactly that. It's more motivation, right?
Yeah.
In the past, maybe when something was frustrating, it was just frustrating to you, but now it's like, okay, we've got to solve this for her.
Yeah.
And you think in a time horizon of, okay, Is this going to be done in 5 years, when she's in so-and-so grade? Is this going to be done in 10 years, in 15 years when she's a teenager? So you start to think about things through that lens, right? When you think about some of these big projects we're doing planning for that are 5-10 years out, you start to think of it in her terms of growing up too, which is pretty neat.
Well, let's talk about your vision and your plan. So this is year one, right? What's that goal at the end of this year, in your first year here as a supervisor? And then let's fast forward to those 5 years. What specific things would you love to see? And then the grander vision, like, 10 years or more. Let's start with the year one plan. Like, what do you hope to do in this first year?
I'm really hoping this particular year, this first year, that we're going to make a lot of good progress on our small business permitting.
Okay.
Our district has kind of got a bad rap through the years of being a really hard place to open a business, hard place to run a business. And we're looking at really common sense changes to make that easier. For example, right now, you're not allowed to open a bookstore and a coffee shop under one roof in a lot of our district. That's silly. You're not allowed to have a takeout window in a lot of our district. That's silly, right? So things like that are just giving people a break, letting them have a little bit more creativity with their business. That's really important to me. We're working on introducing that right now.
Okay, and let's look at like the immediate future, maybe the 3 to 5 years, right? What do you think you can get done?
I think 3 to 5 years, it's all about the areas in our district that are really important to tourism, to hospitality. Again, we've got Fisherman's Wharf, we've got Union Square, we've got downtown, and we're starting to make a little bit of progress there, but there's some structural things that need to change. We've got to convert, for example, some of our office buildings downtown to new homes, and we're working on legislation to do that right now. We've got areas in Fisherman's Wharf that just need a little love, need a little TLC, that have been vacant for too long. We're working on that. We're working on really ambitious projects like extending the Central Subway. So we've got to get that project ready so that when we can get the money for it, that we can do it. We can bring it to North Beach. We can bring it to Fisherman's Wharf.
No, there's definitely, and there's, what's the long term? Let's talk about the long term. Like, what would you love to see San Francisco become? Like, just fast forward future, like what's that city look like to you?
I think it's a city that continues to stay open, approachable, and continues to be a beacon for people all around the country and all around the world. And I think that's what we all believe in, but we also have to face realities, right? We can't be that if it is so expensive to live here. We can't be that if it's so difficult sometimes to get around our city. So that's what we have to keep in mind is keeping that spirit of San Francisco, what it's made so special.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100% there. Well, thank you so much for answering those questions and your short-term, long-term vision, everything, and sharing about yourself. Now let's do this part I call like a little rapid fire, a little fast, fun, furious with Franco here. And just have, whatever comes to mind, whatever little answers, you don't have to elaborate, just whatever comes to mind. You ready?
Let's go.
All right. Easy one. How about this? Golden Gate Bridge or Bay Bridge?
Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. Coffee or tea?
Coffee. Easy. Coffee.
Coffee. Lots of it. Especially now you have a newborn. Absolutely. Okay. When you're flying, window, middle, or aisle guy?
Aisle. Get up, walk around a lot, aisle.
You're okay with that, huh?
Yeah, let's do aisle.
It's aisle? Okay, good. Okay. BART or Muni?
Muni.
And I hear you take Muni all the time.
Muni, walk, bike, Muni.
All day. Okay. All right. How about this? Giants or the Warriors? You said baseball, but
Giants. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, I love the Giants too. Okay, but we'll make you fall in love even more with the Warriors. I'll get you to the game sometime. All right. How about that? Just a couple more here. How about this? Best view in the city. You've got some iconic places.
We've got great places. There's a lot of good ones that people know about. The one I would say that is often overlooked, it's called Ina Coolbrith Park. It's on Russian Hill. It is it's a Taylor, probably Taylor and Vallejo, and it's this two-step park. Really, really neat. Ina Coolbrith Park.
I'm gonna have to look that out. That's a little gem right there. Okay. Well, let's close out with this one. Would you like to rather go to an art gallery or maybe a museum?
Okay.
What kind of guy are you?
Let's do a museum.
Museum?
Yeah.
Museums?
Yeah.
And in particular, do you like modern art? Do you like?
I like whatever. We've been talking to my wife and I about getting to a museum soon. So museum.
Actually, I got to throw one more because I'm gonna end with something food related here.
Okay.
Fast food or gourmet? If you could just have a pig and just I want this.
Probably fast food. Not fast food like the big corporate stuff, right? But like fast food in San Francisco, like you're
Quick,
grabbing
easy.
a burrito, right? Like that's good.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a great answer. We got some darn good burritos in San Francisco. And I'll end with this now. If you had to pick between chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry, what would you pick out of those three flavors?
I would go with vanilla. I'm sorry if that's boring, but vanilla.
I'm a vanilla guy too.
Maybe vanilla with like some sprinkles or something. We'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have the sprinkles, but I do have this for you. This is from the Golden Gate Fortune Cookie Company. Okay, this is a very
Beautiful.
iconic
It
San
is.
Francisco brand.
It
Okay.
is. District 3.
Well,
Chinatown.
supervisor, you've picked vanilla, so that is any one of these in the middle.
right,
So
this
pick one.
Let's see what my fortune
And so
is.
open it up, and this is how we close our segment, just to have a
love
little
it.
fun. And maybe read it to us, and then just tell us like how it can maybe relate to you and just who
I
you
think
are.
it's perfect.
Okay, what is it?
Keep an eye open for an opportunity soon to arrive.
Ooh, okay. Relate it back to
I mean,
however you like.
I feel like that is what life is every single day these days. Is there are opportunities to improve San Francisco, opportunities to improve the city, and that's what it's all about in this building.
That
It's
is,
beautiful.
you have the perfect one.
I think so.
I think you knew that was coming. That is a perfect
Yeah.
fortune right there.
Thank you.
Well, Supervisor, thank you so much for sharing your time. That was really amazing getting to know you. Now, if you want to watch this episode or other Meet Your District Supervisors, go on SFGovTV's YouTube channel. Danny Sauter, District 3
Thank you.
Supervisor,
Pleasure.
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's awesome. We'll be right back and catch you next time.